feel like there's an echo on here, but hopefully we got this right. Stay on radio style. Hope everybody out there is doing good. We're doing this right. All right, I think we're good. It's harder than heck to tell sometimes. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Hello. Dan Radio Style. We got another great live show coming up. Q&A with our great friends Karen and Jeffrey. How are you guys doing today? Uh-oh, I'm not hearing you now. Crap. Really? We're not hearing you guys again? All right, hang on. I got this. At least I know where to look. All right, Karen, can you guys hear? Yeah, I can't hear you, though. Huh. All right, well, forgive me, folks. We're going to try to cover some technical difficulties again, because this is really challenging. Karen, Jeffrey, can you guys hear me now? You guys can. All right, can I hear you now? Oh, thank you, though. Still working on this. Okay, still trying to, you guys, I can't hear you at all though, huh? You sure your mic's good? You positive your mic's on? Of course I could hear you earlier, I don't know why I can't now. Got more music at least. Sorry guys, we're still trying to work through this. Okay, turn that off. All right, you guys, can I? Okay, can you guys hear me? You guys can't hear me? I still can't hear you. What the frick? Hey, talk real quick. Actually, can't hear me either. Hey, talk real quick. Oh, they can hear me. Okay, guys, we're still getting closer, but I still can't friggin' hear them. I don't know why. I had this figured out last time. Okay, guys, we're still getting closer, but I still can't friggin' hear them. I don't know why. All right, can you guys talk one more time?
Yeah.
Oh, geez,
can you hear us?
Yeah, I think that causes an echo when I play music. Oh, Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's how it works, man. Live, and all sorts of craziness just causes issues in the old. There we go. All right. Wow. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks for joining us. Karen and Jeffrey are here. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing great. Beautiful sunny day here in Colorado.
Up at Copper Mountain, it snowed yesterday, so it's gorgeous.
Yeah, you know, in our little teeny mountains just up by my my place here, and they're like, I don't know, 3,500 feet or something crazy, really small. But they actually have a little bit of snow on top. It's like, oh, goody.
Wow, it's so
got a
pretty.
white Easter, you know, because that happens all the time.
Right.
For you guys possibly, but not for us out here in California. So hopefully everybody's doing well out there. I think you brought some friends to the game. Wanted to do a quick little kind of discussion and then Q&A, certainly for everybody that's out there. A quick little discussion, though, around the idea of forcing our manifestation. Like sometimes, you know, I think it feels like we're hitting our head against a wall, right? I was having a similar experience with something where you're trying really hard to increase it. You keep thinking positive thoughts. You keep focusing on staying positive. You keep trying to make this whole existence experience like better, right? And you just keep like, I don't care what's really out there. And then you just don't see the changes. You don't see the differences. And what I've found typically when this happens in my life is it's a time to like take a step back. Like it's almost like there's like a latex wall and we're like trying to push through it, right? It's like stretchy, but you keep going back. It's a moment to step back and say, hey, maybe I should reassess. Maybe there's a different direction. Maybe there's a different approach needed. Maybe there's something completely different needed. And so sometimes when we take that step back, we have a chance to reassess what we're trying to do, what we really want big picture. Maybe not this small little detail we're looking at, maybe this metric or this particular person to text us or whatever the situation might be. Maybe we're over concerned about this small little thing and should step back from it and realize the bigger picture. Because sometimes when you're working on the bigger picture, there might be like 15, 20 of these little things, right? And you're focused on this one particular little thing, but there's 19 other ones that need to get dealt with. And sometimes when we get over concerned about that one and fail to either A, see the others, or B, sometimes by focusing on that one, we block the others because there's so much emphasis on something that's not ready yet to happen. So we've got to let things happen kind of in their own way. I don't know if that means anything or brings up any stories for you guys. Karen and Jeffrey, do you have any thoughts about that maybe?
Yeah, you know, it immediately makes me think, I don't know why, but, you know, of the body. A lot of times we look in the mirror and we see one flaw instead of the entire amazing body all working together.
Well, other people do, not you guys, right? I mean, you guys don't have any flaws. Come on.
Well, we don't have enough time for that. We try not to focus on them. But that's sort of, you know, what brings to mind. And if you take the focus off, like you said, that one thing that's tripping you up and put the focus on the big picture and how magnificent the big picture is, you can actually see that big picture take on a transformation.
That's true. That's very, very true. Jeffrey, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. You know, I think we talked about this a little bit on the last show too. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now I can, sorry.
Okay, great. Yeah, you know, I do think, you know, we tend to get wrapped around the axle on certain things, and, you know, you just have to let things flow. And sometimes it just takes time. You know, in this life, there's a lot of ups and downs, and, you know, you can't get too crazy about any one thing or any one event that's occurring right now. You know, this is a time in our life right now. We got a major event going on right now. You know, people get really wrapped around the axle about certain things. And I think you're right, Dan. Sometimes you need to just step back a little bit and let things happen as they happen. I mean, you know, and everything works out. Karen and I say this all the time. Everything works out the way it should. If you kind of have that mentality, I think you're in a better place if you just believe that things are just going to work out and don't get crazy about, I need this thing to happen right now, right?
I 100% agree. And I think kind of one of the key ways that I've known when I'm doing things in the right way or kind of in the flow, as they say, is when it literally does feel not effortless, but kind of like really when you're truly in the flow, when you're actually where you're supposed to be, when you're heading in the direction that you really want to go. that you actually, things just start to happen and flow for you. And when you find yourself beating your head against a wall, it's usually because you're trying to swim upstream, you're trying to fight something, you're trying to do it out of order, you're trying to focus on the how more than the actual outcome. Like there's usually a number of different ways that we frequently manifest this wonderful feeling in our lives of frustration, but it is through that experience that you oftentimes know that that's not quite what I want to do. That's not the direction I want to go.
Right.
Totally agree. I
Very
think
good.
sometimes we need to allow some of the doors to close. And
That is a very astute statement. Like I couldn't agree with you more. Go ahead and I say expand on that a little bit because I think it's a great point, and I want you to kind of expand it from where you were going.
yeah, well, and I'd love to hear your take on it as well. But I think when we allow the doors to close, then you're forced to take another path. And hopefully it's a path that leads you to what you're going, what you're looking for. But you may end up going down another path, and again, another door is closed, and that's okay. We've talked about the universe giving us things in the right time. So that's
What are
really
some
my
examples
take on that.
about doors closing, maybe that people in the audience may relate to?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you, Dan. Say
That's
that
okay.
one more
What
time.
are some examples of different door closings, if you will, that you might be able to relate to the audience or help the audience relate? Some examples.
Oh, gosh, well, I mean, in relationships, if you're keeping that door open in a relationship where you absolutely know in your heart that it's not the one, and you need to differentiate between I want it so badly and it's just not right. You need to close that door, because until that door is closed, the right door is never going to open. And that translates into everything in life. It translates into, your passion. If you're feeling passionless, but you're focusing all of your attention on something that's not giving you the joy, close that door and refocus to something more passionate. Or if it's a job, there's plenty of people who say, I can't stand my job. Close that door. And sometimes the door gets closed for you, especially right now. A lot of people are getting laid off and furloughed, etc. And, we have a choice to interpret that into our own sense as, a terrible thing or a wonderful thing. And even if you loved your job, something different and better is behind the next door. I really believe that.
And I do think that's one of the ways, like a lot of us kind of know that we need to change directions. You feel it. Like you feel it in your soul. I'm not happy with my job. It feels like it's dead end. I can't seem to get ahead. I don't enjoy what I'm doing. And it shows in your work, by the way. If you're someone that's doing a job and you absolutely hate it, I'll bet your money your boss can tell. So that's one of those things where if you're not jiving, if you're not feeling it, if you're not in a good place, you're going to feel out of sync. And that is a key that you should consider looking into opening another door, because it's your way of your soul talking to you. And to your point, I found anyway, if it's important enough for me to go in a different direction, sometimes that direction is borderline forced on you. Jeffrey, has that ever kind of happened to you in any sort of way?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was just looking at the comments here. One of your listeners was mentioning about, some significant other or significant person, and he's tired of thinking about her. I guess when you get there, you need to close the door. Here's the thing I would say to all of this. If it's something that is truly meant to be, it's going to happen. You just know it inside in your soul. So you're okay letting it go a bit. If you do get tired about thinking about this job, or living in a certain area of the country or a certain person, I'm going to say, if you start to say, I'm tired of thinking about this person, or I'm done trying to move to this island, whatever the heck it is, it probably isn't meant to be, and you probably should just shut that door. If I'm making sense here, if it's something that's really a core desire is something that, and using Neville's words, thinking from the end, you're going to be there. You don't really ever get tired of thinking about it, and you give it time to happen, right? I think that's the way I feel about it. It's innate. And then I do know when I'm kind of sick of thinking about something. So you know what? That wasn't meant to be. Let me just shut that door.
Yeah, or even take a pause from it sometimes, right? Like, screw it. I'll think about it in a week and see how I feel about it then. Because right now it's frustrating me. And sometimes it's good to walk away from something, right? I can't even tell you how many problems I've solved by literally walking away from it for a day or two and be like, oh, and just light bulb turns on. It's actually cool when it happens. Hey, wanted to shout out to a couple of our folks that are out there. We got Jerry G. Ballard. Welcome, sir. You're always here. I think you were first in, or at least first to chime in anyways. Alan Winston. Nice to see you, sir. Lindsay Bly. Lori Mortimer. John V. Barty. Taylor Pearl. Hey, any relation? I don't know. It sounds suspicious. We might have a family member in the crowd, folks. Sharon Combs. Nice to see you as well. Jamila DeVee. Martin Bale, Sana, I think I never said that right. Anyway, Wavy Chung, Jeffrey Barnes got in here as well. Ariel, good morning. So a lot of great people are in here. Thank you so much for joining us. 6 months into LOA, new learning, how to improve myself within. Alan, you bring up a great point, by the way. I think really self-work, right? Isn't that something that probably both of you guys have spent a little bit of time on, sales work? I know you guys have seminars and all sorts of different training things, but like in relationships, in manifesting and spirituality, like a whole slew of stuff. You guys got anything to add to that?
It's huge. Yeah, I'll let you dive in here, Karen, because this is your thing. But I mean, you have to be really confident in yourself first. I just, from most things that are going on, you have to be there first and be whole, so that you can actually be full and you can share that. I like to use the analogies like, you can't donate money to a charity if you don't have any money in the bank. You can't really give love to everybody around you if you don't love yourself first. I mean, I know you're big on this one.
Well, 100%. I believe self-love is, the foundation for everything that we experience, and our level of self-love determines that. So, with this door closing and opening, I saw somebody said that, what's the difference between your thoughts closing a door and the universe closing a door? A lot of times your thoughts already know that door needs to be closed, but you don't act upon it. And the universe is really just giving you a gift by closing it. Perhaps, again, going back to a job that you've been going to for 20 years that you really don't like. You know who you are. I'm talking about you because I know you're on here. And then you got laid off because this company pretty much laid off everybody. And it's really your dreams coming true, but at the time it doesn't always feel that way. So, and I diverted slightly.
Well, I just want to say, on that question about knowing whether you close the door or the universe closes the door, I'm going to say, Dan, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but it's one and the same. I mean, I'm really big on, my perception is my reality. We are all part of the universe. I mean, we're all connected. We're all some of this. So things get confused, I think, when we say, I'm closing this door, or the universe is closing the door. I'm gonna say it's one and the same. Dan, what are your thoughts there?
Well, it's funny for me. Frequently, I've found when I intentionally close a door, almost immediately something happens that forces it open again. It's just kind of the nature of I'm going to close that door. But what I have found, I guess in my case, and I think it's similar, is closing a door, and I think it's what you mean, and it's kind of how I approach it, I guess. But when I feel the frustration, a lot of the times I just turn to a different direction, if you will, right? I might just leave the door open, but nah, I'm done looking in there. I'm tired of this. I'm exhausted. I don't care. I'm not seeing anything. I'm going to step away from this for a little while. And I think that's just a big moment when you have the courage to do that. But it begs the other question. I was curious what you guys thought, but what is it about us as people, maybe driven people? I don't know, but what is it about us that makes it so hard to let go of something that maybe we should? That's a challenge.
Right. I think Jeffrey should answer that. And I want to preface with, I'm so proud of all of his accomplishments because he made all that happen. He grew up in a, very blue collar family. He was the first one to go to college in his family. And I think, he also is the product of a a divorce a couple times, family, and I think a lot of times those things that are put before you determine that. So
yeah. Well, I think, no, thank you. I always say Karen's my biggest fan outside of myself. I always appreciate that. But it's, Dan, I think it's hard to let go of things a lot of times because it's, we, again, getting mixed up. Our ego is so powerful. And, sometimes we get confused about the things you have to have. I think maybe what Karen was touching upon, there was a period of my life where, I had to build, get myself up to certain positions and up to CEO and all that stuff. That stuff really doesn't matter to me anymore. But, back then, it was hard to let go of those things because my ego, was forcing these things to happen. I would force it to happen, just outwork everybody else, whatever the heck it was to get there. So I think our egos are really powerful. And when we think we need that other person, or, I need to go to that place, I need that job, sometimes it's hard to let it go because, again, the ego is so strong and it just it keeps pushing, and it won't allow you to suppress it. It doesn't want to be suppressed, right?
It's oddly is that ego can be such a powerful force in creating the outcomes we desire, such as when you were in sales and it did matter. And that was like in, being best, but competing against the other sales people, that constant, like, I can get this sale. I got this. And then it's almost that part of us when we can finally turn from the ego and say, you know what, I'm going to ignore you for a little while because right now you're not really driving me in the direction I want to go. I'm not feeling that gratification. And it's funny as listeners in Law of Attraction fall in all walks of that. Certainly a lot of listeners, I hope, in my side of the things are generally a little more on the spiritual side too. But it is funny. It's that evolution where you chase after something that's really, in the end, as I did a video not too long ago, you can't take it with you. It's not really that important in the big picture. Though it is a fun little metric and milestone, and I think men are really kind of notorious for this. This is at least sort of more of a masculine trait anyways, of trying to conquer and get bigger and expand and take other people's lands and rape and pillage their villages. But so again, it's pretty cool how we expand and grow. But then at that point in life, we eventually have to question, am I still going in the right direction? Why do I not feel any better? I've got more money than God and I'm not happy, or I keep getting in these relationships, but I can't seem to find love. Like, it's funny as there's a lot of little weird patterns that we'll catch ourselves on and then question, like, does this serve me anymore? And oftentimes it doesn't. And that's kind of where this frustration often comes in, is you're beating your head against a wall. You're trying to force an avenue that you don't want to go anymore. At least maybe consciously you want to, or you think you do, but your soul's like, no, we're done, dude. We're done. So.
Exactly. I was wondering what you thought about this concept too, because, there was a time when we wanted to have the big house. Jeffrey wanted to get the fancy car. Our kids had the latest toys, etc. And that is so unimportant to us now. In fact, we want really as little as possible because we see that a lot of those things cluttered our lives. But we had a great conversation on this week about, and it was really spurred by a conversation that the three of us had, Dan, that we needed to do that. He needed to do all of that in order to gain the credibility, because maybe if he didn't have that credibility and, then people wouldn't listen to his advice, or if they were looking for that kind of advice, they wouldn't go to him for it. So it's an interesting dichotomy of, yes, I did all that. I can tell you how to do all that. And it was great. But now I'm not doing any of that because I'm on a different journey. What's your thought on?
Well, you bring up a really important thing that I think a lot of people try to sidestep or want to sidestep and don't understand the importance of. But wisdom is an extremely powerful thing. And it's one thing to read a bunch of stuff and learn a bunch of words and all that and got a concept down and I get it in my mind. I totally understand it. But the reality of things is never like the knowledge we had. You have to be able to take this general idea and then apply it in a real world. That is where the wisdom comes in. That is where the understanding comes in. So to your point, like, Jeffrey, I don't think you would be even the same person if you hadn't have gone down this. You wouldn't have reached the same conclusions you've come to that have helped lead your life. You wouldn't have been that role model and father figure to your children. There's so many things came from you walking through that doorway that to even look back on it and say, it's not really important, I would disagree, because you've inspired many. Was the money important? No. That was what drove some of the decisions maybe. But what you were and who you were, very relevant, very important to who you are. You affected a lot of lives being a good person, being a great salesperson, and learning how to do that, and then teaching others how to follow you. So there's, I think, a lot to be said. And basically, everybody, there's so many different walks. There's so many different people trying to do something, that there's someone out there doing that thing really well. And it's good to be an example to others, I think, no matter what it is that you're doing.
Yeah. Right. No, I think that's right. I think a lot of us think this way. I look at, some of my mentors, and, a person that just pops into mind out of history. I studied George Washington a lot. I mean, you look at people like that, and, father of the country and all that he did, you kind of look at your life and say, holy crap, I haven't done squat compared to that when you look at certain people. But I think you're right, Dan. Whatever it is, we talked about this last time. I believe that if you can allow or help some other person to breathe easier in this life, you're successful. So that's what I go back to. And thank you for saying that. I think that is right. I think we're all on some kind of a mission. Hopefully you're doing some good for others along the way. But I think we all get to the same point at the end where you start to figure out, I call it enlightenment. I think we all do. This path to enlightenment, where you start to figure out what's really important in this life. And a lot of times you have to get through a good chunk of it in order to start to figure those things out.
Well, it really makes me think too, also, how so many of us, all of us, I would say, are completely oblivious to 90%, probably 90%-ish, of all the good things and bad things we do to others. Just probably completely oblivious of how we impacted others. Now, if generally your heart's in a good place, the right place, it's probably good in almost all cases. But you've got some people out there that are grumpy and bitter and whatever, and just walking through life or sleepwalking through life. And it's like they say little hurtful things maybe to that barista at the Starbucks, or they might say something crazy to the checkout person or the waitress. And it's like not realizing that they're saying something that probably that just affected that individual. Like they might have just walked in the back and been like, man, that really sucks. And it's one of those things where I don't think people realize the impact they have on others. I think most of it actually goes unnoticed. The little bit that we do find out about, it's like, oh, cool, or, oh, man, I'm sorry I hurt you. But it's all those things we do that we don't see. And I think it's why it's kind of a good idea to always try to put that better foot forward. I think you both are of that same cloth. That's kind of, I think, why we get along so well. But yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, we actually did a video on that. And the flip side of it is, and this is what's really difficult, why we did the video on it, the person that's on the receiving side, it's such a wonderful thing when and if we can get to a place where somebody else's comments are just their comments. They're not us. We don't own them. And that is just a really hard place to get to. So knowing that most of your comments, do affect other people, I think, and I think that's a learning process too. Some people get it really early on, and some people it takes them 50 years. Some people never get it, and those are still the same people that are rude to the, postman or the server or, the president or whomever. I just think that we have an opportunity in this life to project whatever we want. And why wouldn't you choose to project something that feels good to you? And then, that energy is projected onto anyone else that's in your field.
I would say it's honestly that concept that we're talking about here, that you were just speaking of specifically, is the one that really, to me, truly proved the causation between how I'm feeling and thinking about things and what I'm experiencing in life are directly related. And I've always found that when I'm in a sour mood and I'm being grumpy and I'm snapping on people. And usually when I am like this, by the way, I usually catch myself reasonably quickly. I just, like, the second person I snap on, it's like, oh God, I'm snapping on people. What the frick, right? Like, but it's that when we change and actually go, no, I've been grumpy, I've been unhappy, I'm going to be happy. Screw that. I'm going to be nice to people. I'm going to smile at this. Why? Right? And then you smile at the next person that walks by, you feel a little better, but you instantly start to see your world change. So to your point, like, why wouldn't we send out good? I've screamed that from the mountaintops my whole life. I think the reason why is people haven't made that correlation yet. Like, you're creating your own world. I'm only doing it because they cut me off, so I cut them off. It's like, yeah. So you're going to keep going through that vicious circle until you finally decide to stop cutting people off. You started this, not them. And that's where I think a lot of us have to realize that I can change what patterns I'm experiencing, for sure, and what I experience in general.
Absolutely. And, I just want to tell a quick story of something that happened to me yesterday. I was on the phone with somebody who I love with all my heart, and they were pretty short and snippy. And, I didn't want to take it personally, but I'm not going to lie, because I love this person so much, and this person's on as well, and you know who you are. And the wonderful thing about this was that 2 minutes later, and I've been thinking about it for the entire 2 minutes, which I should have let it go, I got a text saying, with a heart, saying, "I'm sorry that I was snippy with you. I didn't get any sleep. It's me. I'm just very tired. I love you so much." I mean, if we could all do that, but our ego gets in the way of us projecting that we've made a mistake or been unkind, and that made the rest of my day so beautiful, and the rest of my conversations with that person, because we had several more after that, just at such a high vibrational frequency. And she had that opportunity to remain at a low vibrational frequency, which I think would have, meant distance for us on that day yesterday. But she recognized her own situation and knows that she's a high vibrational person. And it was just a beautiful, magical thing. If we could all do that, it's as Jeffrey says, it's easy to do and it's easy not to do.
Well, just one quick note too on that, Dan. One thing that I can just tell you about the almost 30 years Kara and I have been together. We're two type A personalities, and we're kind of mirroring each other's souls. So a lot of times she'll reflect things in me that I know are true, but I don't really want to admit to them. So you tend to have some abrasive conversations, arguments. I mean, everybody does. Mm-hmm. But I can say, at this stage of our life, we've actually learned to step back, as you said. We learned to step back and look at that like, this is ridiculous. And I can tell you more times than not now, we might be in this kitchen and it starts like every other person on the planet, every other relationship does. And there's some kind of words going back and forth, and I'll give her a look, she'll give me a look, and we'll both just like laugh out loud at each other. It's just so freaking funny that we were going to have an argument about something stupid. But when you can step back and just acknowledge it, it really is a riot, right?
Well, it just makes me laugh because I keep envisioning this like you're having this little issue, and sometimes we're in other people's lives to sort of play that part for them so they can walk through and learn this. But then the other part of me is like, if things didn't get better, then otherwise I'll see you in the octagon, like some sort of, we're going to duke it out, woman. I just think that's funny. I have hair pulling and screaming. Makes me laugh. Anywho, hey, a couple people are asking. I think it's a good place to bring it up real fast, if you don't mind. I'm sorry, it's a little personal. What's your favorite color? No, I'm just kidding. How are you guys feeling? Are you better? Were you back to good? We at 90%, 87.2%. Where are you guys at?
Thank you so much for asking. And just to clarify, we were COVID-19 positive. Symptoms started back on March 14th. So we're April 11th. And I'm super happy to report that COVID-19 for me physically is 100% in my rearview mirror.
Nice.
I am.
So you're not even, you have no symptoms. You're not contagious?
Well, they told me I wasn't contagious.
When you say they, you're talking the Summit
sorry.
County Health Department.
I got an actual letter. You know, it's pretty serious
Official.
business because you're counted as a number once you're positive from the CDC. So the Summit County Health Department actually sent me a letter letting me know that I was no longer contagious. When they sent that letter, I still felt symptoms. So we continued to quarantine, even though according to what they knew. And I think the issue is they just don't know everything they're learning. You know, Jeffrey, I would say is 90% better. Unfortunately, he still has this tight cough and he's had some new symptoms that have shown up. He feels amazing. As he says, if we live on a ski mountain, if the mountain was open, he'd go out and ski. Of course, I wouldn't let him because he's having tightness in his chest.
Because you've got wisdom.
Because I love him.
That's why, yes.
That's the side of the soul that is more nurturing.
Yeah, and I just for the record, I have to vocalize this because I'm 99.9% better. I can't admit to 90%. So I'm powering through this, but yes, I still have this dry cough. I'm finally taking some like over the counter. The doctor finally forced me to go, or said, you got to go get this Mucinex DM, which I'm taking. I think it's helping. We just don't like to take a lot of that crap, Dan. We feel like we can kind of power through it, just eating very well, getting
some of that weird crap though does kind of help break that chest stuff up, especially when it's dry. I've had a dry cough before, and it's just it's brutal. It's brutal. Yeah. Like I need this to produce something, or I'm just killing myself.
Yeah, but we're doing well. Thank you for asking. Everything's great.
Outstanding. Yeah. You know, and the other thing, it's You brought up two other points that I totally just interrupted the flow of, but I thought it would make for a good we start up a new conversation. But one of the things we talk about frequently is seeing in other people, and a lot of the times us as viewers of others are usually quick to point fingers and say, you are this, you are that, and you're good, you're bad. I mean, it's both good sides of this and bad sides. I mean, it happens both ways. But always when we point a finger and we say you are this, we got three fingers pointing back at us, and it's almost a guarantee when you say you are, that you're acknowledging something that you have inside yourself. And so if it's a good thing, you're like, oh, you're so awesome. I love how you're so into your soul and into love and blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's because you are too. Hello, that's why you recognize it. But also, when you're like, you're a jerkhole and I hate everything about you and your mother smelled funny, like you're pointing back at yourself. You've got issues. Obviously, a stinky mother. I mean, let's just be honest. I'll call a spade a spade. I'll say it right now. But that's one of the ways you know kind of what's going on inside yourself is you're really quick to point it out on others. And it's just kind of funny. You sort of brought that up earlier. Not necessarily the mother part, but I think I took poetic license there. So do you guys have any thoughts about like the way we tend to project, if you will, onto others? I mean, a lot of people in this Neville world and spiritual circles, manifesting circles, I should say more, are really into this whole everything's us pushed out. I believe Goddard's two quotes that I've been able to find is the world is you pushed out and everyone is yourself pushed out, but that was in regards to affecting other people when it comes to getting jobs and things along those lines. Like if you're going to have wish someone well and they're going to have an interview, you don't worry about the dude they're going to interview with or dudette. But you worry about just them telling you, hey, I got this promotion. So you don't worry about the other people. So that was what Goddard meant in that particular lecture where he used that term. But anyway, I digress. Projection is what I prefer. What do you guys think?
No, I agree with you 100%. And when you can acknowledge that, not only do you stop yourself from projecting that onto others or maybe criticizing someone else, but you also catch other people doing it to you. You know, Dan, from being out here in YouTube land, you know, we get out there, I may be on someone else's channel, I'm making a comment. I'm truly doing this to try to like help raise the collective consciousness and help people think better about what's out there in front of them. And someone sent a comment the other day that basically some people were just giving me a thumbs up. They're so, you know, behind me. I think this is my ego, of course, feeling so good. I'm glad I made that comment. I'm all happy and smiling. And then some person says, you know, he calls me a delusional utopian dreamer. So I looked at that and I can tell you my smaller self, my ego wanted to fire back and hammer him. But, you know, I'm just like, okay, that's his issue. By the way, that's his perception. That's his reality. I have a whole different reality going on. And when you can acknowledge that, it gives you, I'm going to say, it gives you a power to have this suit of armor Teflon that when someone makes a comment or derogatory, derogatory words to you, it just kind of rolls off. It just slips away, if that makes sense.
It does. It's funny. You bring up an interesting thing that I was just thinking about this morning, and I'm not sure where I'm landing on it. I'm curious what you guys think maybe, but so I've got 2 channels, and I've kind of been putting some effort into my other channel lately, and it's paying off well. But it's a lot different than this channel. It's very like conspiracy and crazy crap that most people on this channel probably wouldn't like. But this channel, it's odd. Like, I'm talking about something that's very near and dear to me, very personal, very spiritual. Like, this is my soul that I'm sharing with people. When people make crap comments on this channel, it freaking hurts an odd amount. Like, I'm working on it, and I am getting thicker skin over time, but for some reason, it really hurts on this channel. But it's funny is on the other channel, talking all this crazy stuff, and I finally looked at comments, which I never had on the channel because it was smaller. And I'm like looking at them, and there are a couple harsh ones. There's some good ones, but there's some definite harsh ones. And I like literally laughed. It did not bother me at all. So I thought that was really funny where I'm talking about something I'm passionate about, but it's not my soul that I'm necessarily sharing versus I'm like making dinner for you and you're telling me my food sucks. Like, damn, man, that was rough. So I just think it's kind of funny how that, plays out in our lives sometimes too, maybe. Egos. I don't know if that's an ego thing. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say a lot of times Jeffrey and I will read the same comment and
read it differently.
Exactly. And sometimes I'm really grateful for that because sometimes my interpretation or his interpretation is so different, than each other's. So then once we talk about it, we either respond differently, interpret it differently, or don't respond at all. But most of the time when I see a comment that I know it's intended to be hurtful, like the comment that Jeffrey was mentioning, it makes me really sad for that person. Yeah. I don't really take it personally because our perception is our reality. So it makes me sad for that person that, what has happened or what's happening that they're hurting so much.
Yeah, who squashed their light, right? Who put their light out?
Exactly. And, that goes back to what we were talking about before is, whatever you're putting out there is what's within. So a lot of times, and there have been some times when, we've talked with people like that and helped them actually come around. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But I think it's sad when somebody's perspective is at such a low vibrational frequency that they're not able to see the light, because I think that's a dangerous place to be. And, we as humans, our desire is to want to help them. I mean, I think that's our natural, instinct is to want to love on them, to help them if you can. And it's very hard when you can't.
I completely agree. It's like, I guess I feel like sometimes the way things are working in the universe right now, it's like it's bubbling this liquid vat of us, right? And the stuff that starts to rise to the top are those that are awakening and starting to realize what's going on. And I feel like for the most part, we're just trying to skim them off the top the best we can. And I really do, to your point, think that's all we can do. And there's still some of those people that are swimming down by all the little volcanic vents and whatnot. Staying with the analogy. But yeah, and they're not ready to come to the surface yet. That skimmer doesn't go deep enough. It's like, I want to help. I really, really, really do. But I know right now your whole world is this dark, dreary place. And you don't realize that just up that way a little bit, there's some light. And, your whole reality could change if you just shifted your focus. I guess they find their way eventually, I'm hoping, right? But
yeah, or some people believe they just finish this life and they get to start over again, right?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that, but I don't think that's a reason to not try while you're here. I mean, I believe for sure that I'm in this life for a reason. To me, it seems silly to only have one life. That's all. Like, this is a gigantic, endless universe. Why would you only just get one little smidgen of a time to blink out? It seems silly, but yeah, I think that people that don't take any responsibility for their life or think that there's no purpose to it at all, it's just, I mean, maybe I'm the crazy one, and I'm happy to admit that, but like, I don't know, there's a happiness in this sort of retarded thing I have, or retarded, I don't know, I can't say the word twice. That's such a bad word to say these days, but whatever. But it is kind of a bad way to kind of view the world, I think, and it holds you back, and that's what I meant by the word. So
yeah. Dan, I think I've been saying this a lot lately to our groups that we're involved in, Karen and I. I really think if you can get to a place where you are truly trying to help others every day, all day long, I think that's going back to your point. Yeah, you only got one life here. Call it 100 years, hopefully a few more, but call it that's that one snapshot in time. Why not do the best you can while you're here? And I think my message to everybody around me nowadays is help others, help others, help others. If you can kind of work from that place day in and day out, at least I feel like you're doing the right thing while you're here.
Absolutely. I agree, and for me anyways, it's like, man, I want to be able to like go to bed at night and be happy with what I've done, be happy with the difference I've made. I don't know if this was one of the things that made me realize I was different when I was younger, but there's this odd, like, I actually care. Like, I actually care about others. I care about what's happening. I care about the bigger picture. And it just seems like a lot of people don't, or are blind to it, or just so busy in their own world. I don't know, but like, I can't quite figure out how they're completely unaware of everything that's happening around them. And it's just, again, I know it comes back to the filters and what we're capable of seeing, but it just baffles me how little some see. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I feel like this current situation that's going on, not just here in the US, but in the entire world, is, aside from the bad parts of it, but I'm only talking about the fact
the positives that come out of the negatives, right? Yeah, that's what you're talking about.
Exactly. It's happening. Most of us are in, a lockdown type situation where we are slowing down because we have to. But I think that's a message from the universe to us to take this as an opportunity to stop running so fast and to stop being all about me, and to really just stop, look, and listen at what's going on in the world and what people are going through, and to think about, how can I help? What can I do to make a difference? And it doesn't have to be anything huge. It could be just calling up a friend that lives alone and having a conversation with them, instead of, I'm bored. What does this mean for me? Or I've lost my job. I think it's a great time for us to get out of ourselves and be part of something much, much greater and bigger and beautiful.
Yeah, and help others.
Exactly.
But Dan, what you're saying is I agree too. I'm always amazed, but it just shows you this whole thing about attraction and manifesting. Our minds are so powerful. When someone's stuck down in an area that we're saying, okay, you shouldn't be there, but it's so real to them. That's the message too. You got to be really careful what you think about and what you focus on all day long, because that is your life. And I know I always look and I think, wow, if you talk to people about this, say, yeah, if they're really honest, they agree and they understand. How can they be locked down there in that spot? Because it is so easy to all of a sudden say, okay, it's raining out. It's not a terrible thing. It's a great thing because the flowers need rain in order to bloom. Right. It's not about, holy shit, I'm going to get wet and the day's ruined. It's the same event. You can look at two separate, opposing viewpoints, right? I
absolutely agree with that. And to echo your point, Karen, it's funny if you look at the magnanimity, the enormity of what's happening today. Like, to think for a second that a probably multi-trillion-dollar industry, business, flow of money has literally stopped. Gears on this ginormous wheel that we call the world and the economic system has stopped. That is as biblical as it gets, I think, in today's world. So many people are waiting for like fire in the sky or some crazy thing that never happens in reality. Having the economy stop, the last time was 9/11 that stopped for 3 days or something like that. That was catastrophic. This is just insane. And it's forcing people inside. It's forcing people together. It's taking away all the things that we used to waste time with, essentially. And I think for a lot of people, it's forcing them to really figure out what matters, what's important, what am I here for? Why am I here? What can I do to make a difference? To your point, like, how can I help? This is strange. Like, I wanted to volunteer at the grocery store. How sick is that? Just because I used to work grocery eons ago, and I'm like, do you guys need help? Like, I'll do it. I don't care. I'm not all freaked out by everyone else that's got like friggin' protective gear on right now. It's like, I'll go in there and help. I don't care. It's cool. Like, it's just strange right now. It's almost like that's the draft, right? Like, you want to be a nurse, you're going to help at the hospital, you're going to go volunteer at a grocery store because that's where the front lines are.
Yeah.
Right. But, that's such a gift of right now, that's what the world needs. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
I think the world needs all of us to shine our lights as brightly as we can right now.
Exactly.
So much fear.
One of your subscribers had mentioned something about, it was all about vanity and how this is a great opportunity to release that. And I can't remember which subscriber said that, but it made me think, that's so true. On a normal given day, so many of us are so worried about that. We're so vain, and now we're in a situation where, vanity is really what you think others are perceiving. And we're not really in a situation because we're not interacting with a lot of other people right now. And so I think it's a great time to see how unimportant, vanity is, and to let it go, and to see it's really the true self, the true soul of helping each other that's important. Whether it's working in the grocery store or, I'm waiting to be able to retest and test negative so that I can donate my plasma to hopefully help somebody else. They're doing a experimental treatment with that seems to be working. Or, dropping groceries at someone else's house. Or I saw a Facebook page where the postman or the delivery man had a picture that, of some things that someone had left for him. And it was such a small thing, but such a big, impact on his life. And there was also a note that said, everything's been disinfected, for you. So I think people are taking this time to do good, to be good, to feel good. And if you're not, this isn't going to end tomorrow. They've just extended a lot of states have just extended that school will not resume for this year. So, and another one of your subs, said something about get back to taking care of yourself and building your own self-love, because that overflows into being able to give and do good.
I like it. And one of the subs out there, I'm thinking maybe it's one of your guys' buddies, but do 3 things for others today and don't tell anyone about it. I love that. That's actually, I think, super cool. Like when you do stuff just to be cool to others, and so especially don't tell anyone, that's about as far removed from the ego as you can possibly get, and that is just glorious. It feels so good when you do stuff like that. And obviously, since we've got social distancing, you might have to be a little creative how you approach others to brighten their day. How do you do that? Do you take a picture of an awesome smile and send it to a couple people? That might be fun. Who knows? You got any thoughts on, you guys do stuff like that? I'm sure you do. You guys are crazy good people.
Yeah, no, and we try to, and again, the ego's so strong. I'm smiling because it's like when you do something good. Karen and I just reached out, and I almost don't want to say anything because I'm telling you. But what can we do to help? Can we, donate food to? We have some organizations here that will deliver food to people that can't get out, or people that can't afford it, or they've lost their jobs. So I almost want to talk about, but those are the kind of things that we're trying to do behind the scenes, Dan. And you're absolutely right. I'm just smiling inside. Whoever said that, because it is so powerful. And I forget who said it once.
It was John Mazalewski. I don't know if that's someone you know.
Okay. Yes, absolutely, Maz. Thanks, Maz. That's a great deal. But it's I think Will Smith said this once on some YouTube thing I did. I think it was Will Smith.
He's a very spiritual person, by the way.
Not, but he was basically saying, those acts of kindness are actually selfish because of what you just said. Because if you don't really tell anybody about it and you're just doing it, so much more comes back to you. It's unbelievable. And it's, it's a selfish act because you get so much more by giving. When we were all kids at Christmas, and my mom used to try to tell us, it's all about,
the giving.
It's not receiving. We're like, oh yeah, whatever. Is
Right.
present?
You're like, but where are my presents? Yeah, I hear you, Mom. Whatever.
Right. But now we get it, right? We get it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful phrase that Will says, and he's right, and I love that. I put a huge smile on my face. But yeah, you're right. It is probably the most extreme selfish thing you can do in a good way, though. That's the funny thing. It's actually the most positive selfish thing you can do, and you're doing it for another. It's even funnier. Like that's like three crazy things wrapped around one, and with a creamy nugget in the middle, probably, because everything has a creamy nugget. Let's be honest. Yeah, cool. Let's see if we got any other questions. Hey, and by the way, if you guys have questions out there, please feel free to throw some our way. Let's see. Lori Mortimer shared here. She's one of my peeps. I know that. Thanks, Dan. Despite of the negativity you keep on keeping on, I live in a place of conventional thinking where I can't share my beliefs without repercussions. I love having a free place like this. Man, that's awesome, Lori. Thank you. This is certainly a place where people can share, how they're feeling about things and different thoughts and opinions and what's going on in their lives, and certainly try to keep it a safe place. We had one incident one time, but it wasn't too bad. But what else we got? Oh, one other question I had, and hopefully we can get some questions from people out there, and we'll see if we can keep this going. But one of the things that I've found in making changes in our lives, certainly with other people, maybe trying to repair a relationship, maybe trying to make a new door. This kind of goes back to the door closing concept a little bit, but maybe trying to figure out what door to open up. I think sometimes it's that admitting maybe that we're not correct. I don't want to say admitting we're wrong, because I really feel like there's always, we should acknowledge what we've done to get to where we're at. I mean, sometimes I had a feeling that led me to 3 doors in front of me, right? And I kept knocking on one door, bam, 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 bam. It's like, right, no one's answering the darn door. And eventually, after frustration, I finally say, all right, and I start knocking on the door next to it, and immediately someone opens up, and it's like, oh, sorry, I was hitting your neighbor's door. Anyway, while you're here, right? So I think sometimes we have to give ourselves credit that we got to the 3 doors, and maybe we're not right about the door we keep banging on. How do you acknowledge that maybe I should try something different? Like, it kind of goes back to that being in the flow. Like, I feel like if we're fighting and struggling, that's usually an indication. But sometimes things that really matter, you've pushed for. I'm sure you've had sales deals where you were persistent, paid off, and it was a giant thing, right? Like, there's times where you should keep going. When do you not? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, certainly in this life, this journey that we're on, there are ups and downs. It's this undulating path, and, the downs are going to say the bad things, or the wake up calls to say, holy crap, why did I knock on this door? So I just look at it, Dan, again, going back to, if it's something core in your desire and somewhere you want to go, you just have to understand that it's not a perfect world out there, and there's going to be roadblocks that get thrown up in front of you. Some of them can be pretty freaking significant, right? Karen and I were off on our last journey before all this lockdown, and we ended up rolling a Jeep at 65 miles an hour on the highway. Obviously we survived. It's great news. But we had to pile the Jeep and put everything back into it on a flatbed. The thing was still totally destroyed, and got back here, got in our other Jeep, packed up, and left. Some people look at it like holy crap, that's a sign, you should not be going there. And I'm just like, let's just pack the Jeep up and we're going to go. I mean, people here at Copper that saw the Jeep come back, oh my God, what happened to you guys? I can't talk now. I got to pack up the other Jeep. Don't you want to just stay put for a little bit? And
the cops are after us. We got to go.
We also were covered with street soot and
yeah, that would seem a little strange. You guys are really focused on leaving right now, and you just rolled a Jeep, almost died. You're filthy, got luggage strewn about, but you're still worried about making your appointment.
Yeah, but it's a great analogy. We're still moving forward. I mean, stuff happens in this life, And I think you have to just acknowledge that that's just the way it is. And if you can kind of wrap your head around that, it gives you a lot more strength to power through those tough times and focus on the goal or focus on the future, focus on the good that you're going to. And let's not get caught up in the fact that we're locked down right now and I can't go get my caramel macchiato or whatever the heck people go to Starbucks for, right? It's like, forget about that. Let's think about where we're going. And I think that really helps you power through any of those, negatives, Dan, or some of those things that people think, those are really bad times in my life, right? I mean, you just have to power through it.
Darren, do you have any thoughts?
Well, you know how much I love love. So I always bring it back to the relationships. All topics relate to love and relationships in my world. But Jeffrey had said it has to be core in your desire. And I think that's a really great point. And even in a relationship, and so many times we make excuses in the relationship to continue on with it. And it isn't until I think we experience the lowest of low, where you've realized that, I don't want to say you're selling your soul, but you're compromising your non-negotiables, things that are important to your personal soul and existence and happiness. And I think, once you can really admit the truth to yourself that, you're not in a relationship that has the values and the core items that are important to you, that then and only then can you, get out of that and see the light and move forward. I may have deviated from.
No, I think actually that ties really well. And I know a lot of my audience is into love and all that good stuff for sure. And I as well. And the one thing it does make me think of is, because I feel like between the two of you kind of got a good answer to this question. Let's see if I can replay it a little bit. If something's important to you, if something's really in your heart and very passionate, maybe an individual, something I really, really love these people for all the right reasons and blah, 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 you can assess that yourself. But if that's your case, then maybe this is your test, but your drive should carry you through ultimately. If it's something that's in your being, something in your soul, and you have to have it, you're not going to take no for an answer. And so I think that's how you know whether you keep going on. But Karen, you brought up a really cool point when it comes to love. Am I sacrificing anything for this person that I'm chasing after that's maybe not giving me back what I deserve? Or maybe this relationship isn't really reciprocating. I put a lot of energy into it and they don't put any. Well, is that fair? Is that a balanced relationship? And so maybe it's one of those things where you've got to assess how healthy this desire is that you have to whether or not you should continue striving for it. What do you guys think? Did I do okay on that?
Yeah, and I think sometimes
twin flames, so I'm trying to get the story in the middle, right? Like he's telling his side, she's telling her side. It's like, all right, but what you're saying is
right. It's our souls coming together. I know exactly. That's a whole nother topic.
That middle part.
But I think sometimes you need to recognize the unhealthy, as you mentioned. I know, and there's some people on here that have known me in both my relationships. I was in a relationship before Jeffery, and it was, I was compromising a lot of things that were important to me, but I stayed in that relationship for 3 years, and I wouldn't undo it for anything in the world, because it really allowed me to learn the lessons that I needed to learn in order to have total self-love for myself, total self-respect, self-worth, all of the things that I think really made me the person that I was when Jeffery and I came back, again and met at the right time. So, all these journeys are wonderful. Even, if you're in that journey and already that this isn't the right person, start working on why in yourself. The energy that you're putting into that relationship, it's for a good purpose, but I think sometimes we already know and we make excuses, and we could tailor down the amount of time it takes to get to the good part. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's a big part of people really looking inward and looking at how life is working. And to your point, like the journey it's perfect. Like when you look back on it in hindsight, it's like if this didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened. Then I wouldn't have ended up here that day, and I wouldn't have met Jeffrey, right? Like it's just funny when we look back at all the pieces and how they come together. It's like one of those dot to dot pictures, right? Where you finally fill in all the lines and you're like, oh, it's a rabbit. Oh, I didn't see that at first, right? But it's just cool how those kinds of things tend to play out in life like perfectly.
Yeah.
As
It
these
is.
two
And I
loving
think a lot
couple.
of those are signs. I really believe that, we're given those signs. Sometimes we see them, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it takes us a long time to see them, but every single sign brings us to another one of those dots. And, there's a beautiful journey that unfolds if you allow it.
Well, I think the point to take out of that you're saying, we were talking about this earlier too. I mean, you got to go through certain things in order to know what it's like on the other side. Whether it be a career or a tumultuous relationship, or just as you're kind of finding your way, the saying pops in my head, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. Whoever said it, Dan, you probably know, your wealth of knowledge on this stuff. But it's, if the challenges that come into us, I think, make us who we are, right? And sometimes it's hard to see when you're in the middle of it,
I think people's fear of failure is something that's probably very dangerous. Let's put it that way. I don't think you should have the same failure over and over ever, but I would say through my failures, I have actually learned more and grown more and become way more successful in spite of it all. So I think people need to realize that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be knocking on the wrong door and realize, oh, shucks, let's try the one next to it, right? Like you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to grow and become better than you were yesterday. And it's really, I think, the aspiration that most of us in the spiritual world are shooting for and always hoping for others. Like you may not be the best thing you can possibly be right now, even though I can see it in you, but I know you're better than you were yesterday and you're continuing to go in that direction. And that's all I could ever hope for or ask, right?
Yep, that's right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right.
I wanted to do a quick call out too to Martin Bale. He's doing 25 families are locked down in the Philippines, and they're giving out some ideas. Only telling to give others ideas. Yeah, and that's awesome. My girlfriend's actually, she's from the Philippines as well, and her family, her brother, they were actually donating a bunch, buying kilos of rice and a chicken, and donating in all these different families and stuff. So it's just really cool right now how so many of us are coming together and looking out for one another and breaking down some of these barriers that had been built up over the past number of years. This is a pretty exciting time. This is, again, not to overstate it, but it's pretty darn biblical. Like, it's really neat what's happening. There is so many positives coming out of this giant negative that I think the world will forever be a better and happier place.
Yeah, Dan, and you just said it, and Karen and I have been talking about this too. And we're always cautious talking about this because, some people are losing lives and losing a grandparent or a brother. I mean, this stuff is happening. So it's real for them and real impactful, but, and I don't mean to downplay that, but you really have to focus on the way people are coming together. You really have to focus on the goodness in anything. And I think you're right. That's like, Martin Bale, yeah, congratulations and great. You're good. You're a great person. I knew that anyway. I did see that. And it's beautiful to see all these people coming together. I see people getting off of a airplane, going into a city that's having real problems, and all these medical people are showing up. The Australian fires were going on, I don't know, a couple months ago. It seems like it was a year ago now because of everything that's gone on. I was watching these firefighters get off a plane and everybody's cheering them on. They're all coming, with their gear and their blue shirts with FD, whatever the fire department was. I had a tear in my eye, like a tear of joy, to watch these people just coming to help people in the Australian bush in the fire. So, those are the things too that I think are the testing our human spirit, and to see people, coming to the call to help. I mean, it really is a beautiful thing. We can't take that for granted. We need to put that almost on a pedestal and say, look at this, guys. Look at all this good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I appreciate it. You guys have anything else you got going on? Anything you want to plug?
Well, I just wanted to comment on one of your people out there. I think it's Lindsay is a special ed teacher. Thank you for being a special ed teacher. It really does take a special person, and that you are thinking outside of the box to help people with special needs, reach their goals. That's really near and dear to our heart. We do a charity, this will be year 15, where we raise money for children with mental illness, mental disorders, spectrum disorders, etc. So we are all about understanding that each one of us has a different way of being the best we can be and living our best life in this world. And especially, Lindsay, I'm sure you see it on a daily basis, especially children with special needs. It's not what's offered to them in the norm. They may be in a restaurant and screaming, and people are looking at this family like, what is wrong with your child? When those of us who are in the know understand that they could be screaming out of joy or happiness or sensation overload. And I think this goes back to opening our hearts up to each individual and understand that we're all really different. And someone else's actions shouldn't be looked at with, judgment. I think it's really hard to let judgment go, but I think that's another really important topic.
It's a whole different show right there, but for sure. I think the thing to remember is everybody's doing the best that they can for where they're at. Everyone's looking out for number one first. Let's just be honest. And so let's not get mad at people for doing that. But people are trying to do the best they can. Some are a little better at doing other things than others, but we're all coming at this at the best we can for ourselves. And hopefully it works out for the best for everyone. Good. Jeffrey, any closing thoughts from you, sir? You've been a little quiet today.
No, yeah. I'm just really enjoying watching when I'm watching, and trying to do more of that in my life. Karen always says, one of my biggest challenges, I've never been a good listener. I think I'm getting better.
What were you saying? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
I was just gonna say, Dan, Karen's talking about the charity. It'd be great. Maybe we can have you come out here, and some of the subscribers come out. We climb a 14er. It's free to climb a mountain out here. So this will be our 15th year. We call it Climbing for Kids. We donate money to Children's Hospital, as Karen mentioned, but it's a great. We're hoping we can do it. I don't know if we'll be on lockdown, it's in August, by the way, every year. But love to have people come out and join us. But I don't know. My closing thoughts are we had a lot of great things going on here, and I think we're happy again to go back and help anyone out there. Send us questions, and we don't know it all. Obviously, we're just trying to share some of the things we've learned along the way, and I really mean that. We're really focused on helping others, and that's our plan. We have to finish this book. Karen and I, one of our biggest challenges right now, we've got this book written. Dan, I think you said it last time when we were kind of wrapping after the video. It's like the pain is now the editing. Yeah. We freaking can't stand it. We have all this content.
Well, and your brain will read over the same thing and see it fine. And then someone else is like, I just read that. And you're right. I missed that. Your brain's just, it's funny how much stuff your brain will filter out that it doesn't want to see.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But, to end this, we really want to help others. So if you have any other questions or any other ideas about things we can do, we'd love to hear from you guys. And we really appreciate this time with you. This has been great. And I love to see all the interaction. I can't really see it, but I see it all scrolling. I'll look at it afterwards. But thank you to everybody who's joined us.
Yeah. And one of these days too, I'll set this up differently where we'll make it work where you guys can actually see my video. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to see my video. I've got to do this thing where it's screencasting, and then I throw my camera on top of what they can't see. So anyway, they've been suffering through and just having to listen to me and respond. So thank you guys for being champs. But thanks everybody for joining us. It's been an awesome experience as always. I love it. Very grateful for everybody out there. And if you guys haven't checked out Jeffrey and Karen's channel, I've got a link below. Please get over there and subscribe. They got all sorts of great stuff. Vegan cooking. A lot of stuff I've seen you guys doing there lately. Good stuff. Love it. And then, of course, Dan RadioStyle and my other channel on the fringe is below. I think someone made a comment about what I call crazy. It's not that I don't realize that it's crazy. I just love talking about that stuff. I call it crazy more for you guys, not because I believe it is. So I feel like I'm making a difference in the world. So anyway, I'm doing what I need to do, and I feel good about it. I love you guys. Karen and Jeffrey, thank you so much. Everybody out there, Ariel, Lori Mortimer, On the Hill, Paul, Purple Love is 77, Just. What else we got in there? Gonzalez, Emily. Gotta have the comma in there to be proper. Love it, Lindsay Bly. Positive Patty, thank you for your sweet comment, by the way. That was very, very awesome. And Jamila DeVay, and all of the other people. I feel like it's that Magic Mirrors. Tell me today, did my friends have fun at play? I don't know if any of you are old enough to appreciate Romper Room, but anywho. Thanks, everyone. Next weekend. Bye, guys.